CBS News has agreed to release a full transcript of former Vice President Harris's October interview with 60 Minutes to the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC. Now, that decision came after the FCC sent a letter to CBS asking for a, quote, full unedited transcript of the interview conducted ahead of Harris's loss to President Trump in the 2024 election. The commission also requested the camera feeds from that episode.
Now, Paramount is in talks to settle a $10 billion claim that it deceptively edited a 60 Minutes interview with Kamala Harris. Paramount is currently concluding an asset sale of its Hollywood studio business. The news of Paramount's decision, which has reportedly caused deep upset in the CBS newsroom, and I should say, I was a political commentator for CBS News for the better part of 6 years, so I want to make sure that's clear. The news comes after ABC News agreed to pay $15 million to Trump to settle a defamation lawsuit over inaccurate comments by anchor George Stephanopoulos that Trump had been found civilly liable for rape.
This has apparently opened the floodgates into media investigations, as the FCC is now set to consider a slew of cases against top broadcasters, including CBS, ABC News, NBC News, and also Fox. The FCC also recently launched an investigation into the public broadcasting stations NPR and PBS, alleging those outlets aired commercials that are in violation of federal regulation.
Bernie Sanders had this to say on X. Authoritarianism is intimidating media, curtailing dissent, and undermining our First Amendment. Trump has sued ABC, CBS, Meta, and the Des Moines Register for comments that offended him. His FCC is now, quote, investigating PBS and NPR. Democracy is not negotiable. We will fight back. Robert Reich had this commentary. CBS's parent company, Paramount, may settle Trump's frivolous lawsuit against 60 Minutes. Why? So it can get approval from Trump's FCC to be acquired by Sundance for $8 billion. Skydance was founded by the son of Larry Ellison, one of Trump's major backers. Hello?
Well, look, we've discussed the actual 60 Minutes interview before. I agree that it was deceptively edited to make Kamala's answer sound more coherent, although, frankly, even the edited version was not particularly coherent. It was a question about what to do with Israel and Gaza. Now, however, I defer to they have the right to edit interviews however they want, and if they want to make a misleading pro-Kamala kind of thing, then they can do that and we can criticize it. I think the lawsuit is basically frivolous and should not be pursued, and I don't really want the government, the FCC, to be overly policing what broadcasters, which are private companies and private individuals, get to say. That is a free speech issue for me. It is one, however, I would point out that bureaucrats and Democratic congressmen frequently do. Elizabeth Warren sent a warning letter to Sam Altman, the president of OpenAI, for just giving to Trump's inaugural fund. Democratic lawmakers have sent threatening messages to Comcast and Verizon and Google and Amazon and everyone for advertising on or for hosting conservative news channels on their platforms or conservative news commentators. It's very, nice company you've got there. It would be a shame if we looked into your Section 230 liability protection. The tone of the FCC, not specifically under Trump, but just in general, of regulators toward private companies has been one of threats over speech for years and years and years now. So yes, do I think Trump should be doing this? Absolutely not. Is it new? No, it's something Democrats have been doing for years.
I think for the most part, I agree with where you're coming from here, Robby. I don't think that the federal government should be involved whatsoever in policing the free press. By definition,
Indeed.
The free press should be free. And I think it is worth pointing out that the reason all of this is happening, both the attempts to settle the lawsuit and the fact that the lawsuits exist at all, is because of a very clear strategy that President Trump laid out in his first administration, his first term, that he wants to chill the free press. He doesn't believe in free media. He wants certain kind of coverage, and that is the only thing he will settle for. So I think overall this is very, very troubling. I would also say, small nuance thing here, on some of the actions, the letters that you mentioned from Senator Warren and others, I do think it's a little bit different to have something that is really an optics play, where they're putting out a letter that they think is going to get them some press coverage, and so they can, make a statement about where they stand. And I think that's very different than actually taking legal action, which could cost these companies a great deal of money, as we talked about.
Well, it is optics, but there has been a bipartisan push. It's faded a little bit, as I think Republicans are no longer as on board with it as they were initially. There was a bipartisan push to apply antitrust regulations more stringently, more strictly to large tech companies, to reevaluate Section 230, as I mentioned, which provides some liability for internet platforms from being sued over speech hosted on their platforms. Right? You can, if somebody defames you or slanders you on Facebook, you can sue that person, but you can't sue Facebook. That's because of Section 230. And a lot of Democratic lawmakers and also a lot of Republican lawmakers were looking at that and saying, yeah, but we don't like Facebook, so why do they have that protection? As a result, Facebook has now gotten, Mark Zuckerberg has moved more into the Trump coalition, has gotten Republicans to back off that strategy. Look, I know a lot of populist inclined people won't like that, but if government has the power to massively break up companies or to stop mergers of companies, well then companies are going to be doing things like trying to break Republicans away from wanting to do that. They're also going to be the optics you described, the threatening messages, motivate them to say, well, how can we work with the government if they just want to destroy us at every turn? Especially if they're coming after us for hosting speech or content or ideas that the government doesn't like, which was the basis of so much of Biden era, COVID misinformation, et cetera, all that. Was Biden officials, including at the White House, saying, oh my God, we are so furious with what's appearing on social media, and we're going to hurt you if you don't take down more of it. I mean, that has an impact. That impacts the free speech rights of the people, not just of the company, if you want to say that the company has free speech rights, but of its user base, right? Of their ability to share dissenting or contrarian information was impacted by the federal officials haranguing the companies.
I know you are a free speech purist through and through.
Which is why I don't like what Trump's doing. I don't like what Brendan Carr's doing. I would say leave all these companies alone, but this is not just beginning now.
Well, where we differ, Robby, and we do differ in some places, is that I think that the federal government's fundamental role is to protect the public interest. And where those companies maybe grow out of control or they spread misinformation and disinformation that has a direct impact on public health, which I think is where the concern around COVID-19 was coming from, I think it is absolutely incumbent upon and the true responsibility of the federal government to step in and say something. That said, I think that the free and independent press is the bulwark for democracy, whether it's here in the United States or around the world. And anytime I see any moves that are made to curb that independent thinking, to try and restrict the types of things that free media are able to do, I think that is deeply troubling and something that everybody should be paying attention to.
Yeah, I mean, we're sort of agreeing. Look, I think the government obviously should work to serve the public interest, but there's no, what is in the interest of public health is a subject that can be debated, that is being debated.
Well, telling people not to take a vaccine that's going to save millions of people's lives, that is against the public interest.
You could say that, but there's no that exception isn't in the First Amendment, right? The Supreme Court has never said, well, you can't say it if it's going to cause people to make negative health decisions, right?
Sure, but that's why it makes sense for the federal government to step in moments like that. And of course, the Constitution, love the Constitution, did not predict that we would be in this insane, chaotic social media feeding frenzy, disinformation environment that we live in today with deep fakes and everything else that people create to deliberately mislead the public.
Coming up next, what is going on at the FAA? We will discuss and probably debate. Stay tuned.